Welcome back, everyone, to the Top of the League podcast here on the weekly Armchair Sports Talk channel. This is the show where we talk all things Premier League, whether it be table toppers, people at the bottom, or sort of anywhere in between. And certainly we'll do throughout the season, talking the big points of the best league in the world. Joining me tonight to talk about the good old-fashioned top four, we're going to be talking Man United, of course, Liverpool, Chelsea and Arsenal. So the old-fashioned top four. I'm joined by Adam Matic from Adam Matic TV. I'm joined by Rachel, who's normally on this or on the channel in general, aren't you, Rach? Normally kicking about somewhere.
Knocking about somewhere, yeah.
And the same with William as well, normally chatting all things Arsenal. How are you guys doing tonight?
Not too bad.
Good, great. And we've got Victoria's Secrets in the chat saying, evening all, everyone as well, and buzzing for the start of the season. I think we're all ready now for club football to be back. I think we're getting to that stage. Euros was nice. The break's been good. Transfers obviously nice and exciting, but I think everyone's looking forward to sort of league football being back. As I said at the start, we're going to be looking at the old-fashioned top four and sort of what they've already done in the transfer window, because a couple of teams have been really active and really busy. What they still need to do, because I would suggest that every one of those teams still has maybe one or two positions that need filled, and then sort of where we expect that good old-fashioned top four to sit going into the new season. But of course, Man City not involved in this conversation, and that they will be part of another show, because I'm going to wait to see whether they get Grealish and Kane, and that could be a show on its own, because that would be scary. But the first thing we're going to chat a little bit about Chelsea. Probably one of my least favourite teams to ever exist in football, but we're going to chat a little bit about Chelsea and sort of their new era under Thomas Tuchel, I suppose. They're, of course, in the last week, they've been linked to every striker under the sun. There was a big thing over the last couple of weeks, they're going to get Erling Haaland. That doesn't look like it's happening now, and it looks like things have turned to Romelu Lukaku. We're going to come to Adam first of all. Adam, where do you see Chelsea sort of hunt for a striker ending? And if it does end up being Lukaku, do you think that's the right signing for them? And do you think it's right for him to come back to the Premier League?
I think he's coming back just to basically prove to everyone that he's still got it at the top level in a real league. Italy made for him. Let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
There's no real sort of intensity in that league. And I think he was always going to look good in that league. In terms of who Chelsea will end up with, I do think it will be Lukaku. He's actually come out tonight and said to Inter Milan to really consider Chelsea's latest bid. It's all good for Manchester United, to be honest, because we'll end up getting around about 55 million in our back pockets when this gets done, which hopefully will then seal our central midfielder, which hopefully will be someone like the Salniguez. I think that's probably more where we would go with the money's in there. Yeah. And it would leave us no excuse. And then I think ultimately then would free up any sort of issue with Pogba who wanted to go. But turning back to Chelsea, I do think Lukaku probably suits them. I think he's what they need, that different striker, a clinical striker, because they missed chance after chance after chance last season. Let's not kid ourselves. Werner is not a centre forward. It's plain and simple. He's better on the wing. He missed too many chances. What you need and what Chelsea missed, even though they had a great end to the season, if you're going to challenge Manchester City, then you need a striker who's going to put the ball in the back of the net when the chance comes around. And that is what Lukaku is doing. They will create chances for him. They've got creative players all through that front line. And his link-up play has looked a little bit better. He's shown that in the Euros. He's shown that in his link-up with Kevin De Bruyne. Now, his touch has obviously got better from when he was at United because, let's be honest, he was an absolute clown in terms of controlling the ball for Man United. I think I remember seeing him literally nearly break his own leg trying to control a football at Southampton. He nearly snapped his own leg, and he's a big guy. That's how useless he was controlling the ball. Sometimes it just doesn't work. I think he'll come back to Chelsea. I think he'll come back raging, ready to rock, ready to prove everyone wrong that he still was that 25, 30 goals striker. His international record speaks for itself, man. I mean, it's ridiculous. He just never shown it for us, which is why I've never really liked him that much. He's a bit of a moaner. I always thought he was too big for his own boots, which are massive, by the way. But he has proved it in Italy. Can he come back and prove it on the biggest stage of all, which is fighting for the biggest league trophy in world football right now, which is the Premier League? And I do feel like that is a good signing for Chelsea. I really do. I think it suits them. He's a finisher that they did not have last season. Another feather in their cap and another edge to their game, which is getting better. You can't deny it.
Yeah, no, they're certainly an improved team, and I thought definitely based on I thought sacking Lampard when they did was harsh in terms of what he'd already done. But if you look at Chelsea's goal to win trophies and things like that, then Lampard didn't meet the standard and took over as the right man to come in. And I do think Lukaku would be a massive improvement in terms of what they've already got up front. As you touched on as well, Werner doesn't look like that 30-goal a season striker in the Premier League, but I'm on the fence whether Lukaku can be that. There was reasons that he failed in England before, and going away and scoring goals in Italy, I don't know if that would have really fixed those holes in his game. We know he doesn't work hard. Is he going to have to work harder in this system under Tuchel than he is currently at Inter Milan? I think it'll be a lot to see. I'm going to come to Will. Well, looking at sort of obviously you're an Arsenal fan, you've got very different. You've probably got the same opinion of Chelsea I do. That Lukaku's probably the last person you want to see sort of walk in and really improve Chelsea. Do you think Lukaku can be the difference between Chelsea where they finished last season and then challenging a Manchester City for the league?
Personally, I feel like he'll massively improve him. Of course, I don't want him to go. I wanted us to get Lautaro Martinez. We ain't going to be getting him now because they're not going to sell both strikers. Unfortunately, that ruins our chances as a striker. But anyway, back onto Chelsea. I feel like if Chelsea sign Lukaku, it will take them up a next level where obviously they only finished, fourth last season, just about behind Liverpool and a few points behind you. I think it would probably take them up a few positions. I think they'd get possibly challenging more for second, but I still don't think they'll be quite on City's level consistently. Does he have to be a 30 goals game striker? I don't even think Chelsea necessarily need that as much. Last season, they were very, very solid defensive unit. So even if he could, say, get 20 and just help link up the play a bit better with the rest of their players, and it might give a little less pressure on the likes of Werner, who can now run in behind, get more space. Will try and be less offside than he could be last season, considering he was offside more times than Marcus Rashford would be, and he's currently offside. And with new VAR changes, it would definitely help him there. You never know, he might be able to pick up a new goals. Havertz will pick up a few extra, being his second season in the league. I can see them, that won't be a problem for them. But I feel like, obviously, they got rid of Giroud, so they needed that plan B. Not necessarily plan B, he will probably be plan A in the starting striker, but they needed something different, and he'll offer that. And he will do well, but it's a shame.
It is a shame. It is a shame. No one here wants to see Chelsea do well.
And actually, the one thing I have to say as well, how come Chelsea won't get any slagging about bringing a former player back for a massive amount of money the same way United did when Pogba came back?
Yeah, no one knows because they're Chelsea. So I suppose that's sort of, and that'll be interesting as well because I feel like there's more pressure on Lukaku coming back, as Adam touched on, coming back to make that point. Because what if he doesn't? What if he comes in and he gets 12 goals? What do you do? Do you sell him back to Italy? There's so many risks that Lukaku himself is taking with this move, and I think he does suit the Chelsea team. But Rach, I'm going to ask this question to you. In terms of where Lukaku fits in the team, how can you see that Chelsea sort of midfield and attack lining up? Because there now is so many different options. You've obviously got Ziyech still there, whether he moves on or not. You've got to fit Mount in there somewhere. There's talk that they want to bring in someone like a Declan Rice or Tchouaméni. Like, there's got to be wiggle room where all these pieces fit. And it comes back to sort of what I said last year when they signed Kai Havertz. I didn't think they had to go out and sign Kai Havertz because I think Mason Mount was just as good. I didn't think Havertz was needed there. So how do you think this team sort of line up next year, this Chelsea team, if they were to go and get Lukaku?
I genuinely think it does give Werner a bigger opportunity to play where he likes to play and where he can play his best football. Because, like the lads have touched on, he's not a forward. I do think that Werner will get better next season. I think last season he was very unfortunate, offside a lot, missing chances that even I think I could put away at some point. A few, yeah. I think he even missed one tonight from 10 yards out, which doesn't surprise me. But I do genuinely think if he's allowed to have that license in his preferred position, he can really unlock this Chelsea team. With Lukaku up top as well, the strength in depth that Chelsea have at the moment in that kind of area with Mount and Havertz, I don't really think they need Rice, in my opinion. So I just think, I really don't think they need him. I think they just want him because he's best mates with Mason Mount and he's a good player. But in real talk, we need Rice. And that's not just me being kind of like, well, we want him, so you can't have him.
We need him.
There's more. We genuinely need him rather than Chelsea. But coming back to Lukaku, I think he's going to come back and actually prove a point. I like Lukaku. When he was at United, he was good before United, good after United. He just wasn't good at United. It's a shame how it happened and how it all ended, but I genuinely liked him. I think he's a beast. His stats speak for himself. I think he could do really well at Chelsea, and that kills me to say that because I hate them as well.
No, I completely agree. I'm assuming we all think that sort of if they were to get Lukaku, that their next target would be something like a Declan Rice. Adam, but do you think they would target Declan Rice, or do you think they maybe go somewhere cheaper? Because you see Chelsea fans pumping their gums towards, we've got the money to go and splash on Erling Haaland. Clearly, well, something's not added up there, because if they had the money to go and splash on him, you think they would, rather than if you're going to spend 120 million euros on Lukaku, what's 170 million euros on a Haaland if he's younger and you're going to have him for longer?
Well, I don't think anyone's going for Haaland this summer. I think that 75 million release clause next summer is just an absolute bingo fest, in it. Everyone's going to be
come to
us, and you know what? All that's going to be is Mino Raiola's put that in place there just to say, look at this. Now we can get whatever we want wage-wise next season because that fee is so low. And you get in goals. You get in pretty much like the younger version of Harry Kane in a sense, in Haaland. In terms of Chelsea going for their next player, I'm looking at Jorginho and Kante, and I'm going, sorry, mate, Rice, you're not getting in that team.
That's exactly what I think. Yeah.
You don't get in that team. The only reason Chelsea would buy Rice is simply to stop anyone else getting him. Yeah. Because they know he's a Chelsea lad. They know the connections. I mean, you look at it, you got Kovacic, Mount, Jorginho, Kante. They don't need Declan Rice. They really don't. But they know other clubs need him. And right now, with the financial fair play being eased, as we can see from these knobheads down the road from me, then do you know what? They're going to take advantage of it. They're going to take advantage of it, and if you can, they will. It's just if Declan Rice looks at it and goes, I'm looking at this situation here right now, and I'm going, what do I want to do? Honestly, I look at it and go, he would have said last season, look, can West Ham meet my goals, meet my intention, where I want to be? And they got European football. So, yes, they answered that question. I do think he'll stay another season at West Ham and see where they go from there, because I think he'd be happy that he's actually in Europe. You know, they finished top 6 last season. They overachieved. And for a player like Rice like that, I do think that is enough lore to actually stay for another season at least. I know they're going to throw everything at him because West Ham are probably going to take advantage of this situation now if he does stay. Slap a massive, massive fee on it, get him on a new contract, do very similar to what Jack Grealish has just done now, sign a 5-year deal and then go for 100 million plus. That's exactly what West Ham are going to do now. They're rubbing their hands together
And Ailey just asked that question in the chat there.
Yeah.
Do you think? I know we obviously weren't going to talk about City, but is the cash paid for Jack Grealish going to affect the 7? So obviously it was touted that it was going to be 70, 80 million for Rice. Do West Ham look and go, no? Well, if they were getting 100 million for Grealish in his position,
look at it this way: a couple of seasons, maybe a year ago, Tottenham didn't want to pay 50 million for Grealish.
Yeah,
and he would have gone. He would have gone, wouldn't he? He would have gone in a heartbeat. And now look at him. He's double your money, and not even in Tottenham can't even contemplate. Can you imagine someone trying to get Grealish out of Spurs?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my Levy would be rubbing his hands together with that one. But they've missed the boat, and it proves to strike while the iron is hot. And right now you're looking at it, and I look at Chelsea now and I go, there isn't much more apart from another centre-back, I think, and that striker that they don't need. I think they're pretty solid everywhere else. They've got abundance of players, and they manage to get serious money for every player that they sell. I've never known anyone get the money that they get. It's like United could take a leaf from that blueprint on how Chelsea run their business in terms of getting money for players, because it's astronomical, some of the money they get. But I don't think they'll go for Rice now. I do think it's all in on a striker, and I think you'll find possibly, I think a centre-back will come in. Because I don't rate Zuma. I don't think Zuma's the one. And the rest of them, Christensen may have had a decent season, but Rudiger, agent, nah. I think they need a centre-back and a striker.
Because they're supposed to put in Koundé as well, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, that would be... I wouldn't be surprised if it was Koundé and Lukaku, and they end up flogging a load of their second string for decent money. That's exactly a Chelsea summer, that.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely spot on. I'm just going to quickly ask each of you, where do we see, and the people in the comments as well, if you're in the comments, where do you see Chelsea finishing next season? William, I'll come to you first of all. Where do you think Chelsea are going to finish next season?
Because I'm making me old predictions, and I'm sure I'll put it up on Twitter before next week. I'm going to say second.
Okay, Rach?
I'll go third.
Adam?
Yeah, Chelsea are going to finish third.
No, I agree. I reckon third. Aston in the chat as well says second/third. So yeah, they're of course going to be up there. I don't think they'll be sort of in the same position as they were last year, where they're battling it out come the final couple of weeks to get top four. And I think if they can add that striker and really put away the mediocre teams in the league, then it should be fine. Katie says third. Keane, I'm assuming that's still Keane, says third as well, and Andy says third. So it looks like the general consensus is third, and then a couple of people think it's second as well. Moving on to the next team that I really hope don't get anywhere near second or third next season, and I think that we're very lucky to get Champions League sort of this season, is Liverpool. Now, Liverpool last year had an awful season. They, of course, were ravaged by injury from sort of the second week in the season all the way through. They lost key player after key player, and not only did they lose key player, they lost key players to long-term injuries, not just sort of 2-3 week knocks and then coming back. They lost their captain, one of the best centre-backs in the world, and Virgil van Dijk for the whole season, about 6 or 7 games in versus Everton. And this season, they've not really shown the intent that I thought they were going to show in the market. They've won the Champions League and the Premier League in the last 2.5-3 years, and they have brought in, I always forget his name. I always get mixed up. Is it Konate they brought in? Yeah, they brought in Konate, and Upamecano went to Bayern. That's right, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, perfect. So I didn't get them mixed up. Rach, coming to you first of all. Obviously, we have the same opinion on Liverpool, and we don't want to see them do well. But did you expect more out of Liverpool this summer? Like, they were so poor in defending their title last season. They've lost Gini on a free, who's a £40 million midfielder at least in this market. Did you expect more from them this season, to be a bit more aggressive, to go back and sort of reclaim their crown?
I kind of expected it, but I kind of didn't, because I don't think Liverpool are in that great a financial state at the moment, if what I've been reading is right. So I expected them to make a few changes, but I think they're holding out for Van Dijk coming back, because I think they genuinely think he is the Lord and Saviour of fucking centre-back football. Yes, he is obviously one of the best in the world. He's one of the best in the league. And can he come back after a really, really long sustaining injury and just hit the ground running? It's, you know, it's touch and go whether someone can come back from something so serious and just, you know, especially in an intense league like the Premier League, you're going to have to, you know, people are going to snuff you out and they're going to try and like hit on that a little bit, weaknesses. But
they'll make him run fast, run hard and behind, make him really test out that damaged ankle.
But I genuinely think that they think that he is the cornerstone of that team, and they are obviously building around him. And obviously they've got their front three that speaks for themselves, but they haven't really been hitting it in the past, you know, season and a half. So Liverpool never spend. They just love that net spend.
They do. That's the constant stat you get given. Net spend. You get told. Just like we've spent the less net than any Premier League champions. Like no one actually cares.
Yeah, like, exactly.
At all.
But I think they'll make maybe a few more signings, but I don't think they'll be big like marquee signings. I also think they're really invested in Jota as well, which obviously from the season that he had, the bits where he was actually in the season, he genuinely looks like a massive talent. We saw it when he was at Wolves. He was insane. So I genuinely think they have a good team, but can they all kind of gel together, especially with Van Dijk coming back into the team after almost pretty much a season out? I don't know if it's going to work, but yeah, I think they'll bring in a few more, but nothing special.
Yeah, no, I'm inclined to agree with you. I just don't. You don't see them linked with these big players. Like there's players like Saul on the market available for 35 million. I think Liverpool will be really keen for that. Give them another midfielder in there, maybe someone in to replace Gini. William, coming to you, what are your sort of opinions on Liverpool in terms of what they've done this summer so far? And are you surprised with how much they've done or how little they've done?
I'm a little bit surprised on how little they've done. Don't get me wrong, like they always seem to do a little bit. They don't always make many moves. They build it up usually over a few years, but you look at it like last year they did not much. The year before that wasn't much either. It feels like they're slipping and kind of living off their laurels, which is a really dangerous tactic at the moment. Now, like, if you look at their midfield, obviously we know Gini's gone. So at least I know what they're focusing on this year kind of seems to be getting all the good players down to a new contract. Like they've gotten Alisson today, Fabinho yesterday, Trent the day before, which is, it's good. But you need to build around that as well. Like, I mean, I'm thinking of their midfield. Like you've got what? Fabinho, Henderson, Thiago. Who you'd be like, all right, that's good. But then what if one of those gets injured? Who fills in? I mean, you've got what? Oxlade-Chamberlain, not top four quality. Shaqiri fills in midfield, not top four quality. I mean, I don't know. I can just... To put out a famous quote, I don't know what they're smoking over there at Anfield this time. It's just, I can see Salah getting an injury this season as well, and then they'll be royally fucked. Even though I think Jota will be I think he could even displace Mane this season and pick it up. Not to saying that Mane won't have as bad a season as he did last year, but I just feel like Jota's now, he's hungrier, he's ready to fight for his place, and I think he'll be probably one of the best players up there with Salah. Their defense is a little bit stronger. They brought in Konate. I mean, decent signing, we think. I mean, I haven't seen much of them, but
no.
I mean, their defense was quite weak last year, but they had plenty of injuries. It's good to get more legs back in there, but look, we'll see how it goes, but I wouldn't be confident. And I know my mother's boyfriend is a Liverpool fan. They wouldn't be very confident going into this season on anything.
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head there, sort of resting on their laurels a bit. And as Ailey says in the chat here, Liverpool seem to feel like they've completed their only remaining goal, which was in the league. Finally got that elusive Premier League title. I doubt they'll be in the title race come April. And that's sort of what it felt like. It sort of felt like Alisson and Van Dijk came in and this was the building of their great team. And then they won the league and then teams started to sort of work them out. So they brought in Thiago. And I said last season, the reason that Thiago I thought was so just not of any use in that Liverpool midfield at all, is because Liverpool's whole game is based around getting the ball to the fullbacks and getting round the midfield and getting the ball in the box. So when you're bringing a midfielder that needs time on the ball and your fullbacks just bypass him, he's not going to be able to do anything. And I think with the Van Dijk thing as well, I agree with Rach. I don't think he'll come back and be the sparkling centre back he once was. Like it was an ACL injury. That's going to take some pace out of you as well. He might be a little bit on edge about, or certainly early doors, might be a little bit on edge about sort of going for it fully. And as Aston,
around.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I believe it was Victoria's Secret said, Van Dijk was very poor in the first few games he played at the start of last season. He played in the 7-2 hammer against Villa, and he did. And Aston said that Watkins ran him absolutely ragged, and he did. And maybe teams are starting to work out a way to play around Virgil van Dijk. And Adam, coming to you, do you think Van Dijk being back is enough for this Liverpool team to really cement themselves into that top four and then be in that title race until April? Or do you still think they need, like me, I think they need three players yet, because I just don't see that team being good enough.
Yeah, I mean, Villa, Leeds, opening day, 3 goals. There's 10 with Van Dijk in the team. So, yeah, superb defender. Yeah, okay. I've seen Rashford turn this guy inside out himself live at Old Trafford before. You know what I mean? Yeah, he's a very, very good defender. But let's not kid ourselves. Even the most hardened Liverpool fan now, I've spoke to a few, and they all admit it wasn't the injuries that stopped Liverpool from doing anything last season. It's the fact that the front line faltered. The front line's a bit of a mess compared to how it has been. Let's be honest, if you look back on Premier League history, the most famous front twos, front threes last 2 years, 3 years max. Liverpool's was the longest lasting in that front three that they had. And last year, this was the first sign of decline because someone else had come in. As soon as you break that seal and it doesn't have a good season, it never comes back. It never comes back. All these players now are on the last years. Mane, Salah, Firmino, Jota's fresh, but them other three, the main three, they're all 29, 30. They got one last big contract left in them. There's unrest in that squad. They're all on the brink of, what do I do now? I've got this one last big contract. I'm right in my prime. Do I go for it? And I just feel like they've been scuppered by the salary cap in Spain. Because I don't think Salah would be at Liverpool if it weren't for the turmoil at Real Madrid and Barcelona this summer. I think it would have been gone. I think Mane the same. They've won everything. So they've got one last big contract, which Liverpool are not going to give them because, like we said, financially Liverpool are screwed. They ain't going to give big wages. Not a chance. So these players here now have just realised that they're stuck. They ain't going anywhere else. They can't go to any other big Premier League club because it's a rule in the Premier League. You can't go to your rival, especially not from Liverpool. And where else are they going to go? There's nowhere to go. They're stuck on these mediocre wages compared to all the other big guns in the league. And it's going to cause them rests. They're not as fluent as what they once was, believe me. I mean, Fabinho, I think that's probably the best one that they've signed up in terms of these new contracts that are flying around. They're making it sound like it's some big deal. It's really not. It's stagnating. That's what it is. If you don't invest in your squad, then you fall. And you fall down fast, you fall down slow, but you do fall. Liverpool fell like a sack of shit last season, let's be honest. They went big time because they've not improved enough. I mean, Jota was a good signing, very, very good signing. I thought Thiago would have been okay, but proved not to be. This summer's even worse. And I don't understand how and why they're not investing more, but all the best players are being snapped up right now. I'm looking at City, miles ahead of them now. United have moved ahead of them now in our recruitment. Chelsea, miles ahead. And Liverpool are lucky to scrape fourth next year for me. I really do think they will be stronger than what they was last year, but it's not anything that we don't already know. There's no real improvement. And that defence may be a little bit better, but it's the front line. Yeah, it's the front line that would concern me. And I've been on a few Liverpool channels, and they've all said the same. Hand on heart, they know that the front line hasn't hit it off this season, and that's why. Because they've had chances in games, they just not put them away, and that's it. And when your front line starts to falter, the pressure then comes back on the defence, And Liverpool's defence was very, very weak last season through the injuries, and it just showed them up even more. So I think the forwards got away with it last year, and they weren't in the limelight, and they used this injury excuse the whole season. I mean, come on. It wasn't that bad, was it? A couple of decent defenders, and all of a sudden, it's the perfect excuse to say why we're so crap. Because they were last season. They came back towards the end. They fought back and did well to get back just behind us, which was disappointing for us because we were miles ahead of him at one point. But in terms of Liverpool, Van Dijk coming back, I don't think it's going to make the difference in terms of challenging for the title, not by a long shot.
No, and I agree. And Adam, do you think as well this could be? Were you surprised? Sorry, that one of that front three didn't go, or do you think maybe that? Like, I'm surprised personally that Firmino didn't go this summer. I thought he'd been first out the door.
I do think
it is awful last year.
Yeah, I think it would have been mate, but for Spain and the carnage that Barcelona, Real Madrid, Atletico, all the big guns in Spain cannot afford this big salary. Now they're trying to offload players. I mean, Barcelona's state. Wow, they are they're reaping their rewards right now for their outlandish sort of financial structure that they've had in years gone by. That they are literally just signing frees. That's all they can sign. Basically, to sign whoever they can. It might be a name. Clinging on to Messi for 5 years, dropping his wages by half. I mean, that's just pure desperation right there for me. Yeah. It is. I do feel like Mane, Salah, or Firmino, two would have wanted out of Liverpool this summer, but I think because of what happened, there's nowhere for him to go. And it's no surprise that Barcelona, Real Madrid and Juventus are the ones that are still spearheading the Super League because they're in financial turmoil.
Yeah.
And that's what they need. They're clinging on to that Super League to save their club's financial stability. And it's sad, but you get what you deserve in football. And the way they've run the clubs, thinking they were above the law, the way the banks bail them out in Spain is ridiculous. And now La Liga have just had enough. And we can all laugh at him and say, well, it's your turn to suffer, fellas. That's it. And I think they will do now, especially on the Champions League stage. No one's going to be fearing any team in Spain.
No, absolutely. And I agree. And Katie says here in the chat that that's why the FSG teams work. They win, then fall badly and ugly, and then build up again. Don't see them come back for another year or two. It took them 12 years to build a side from sort of the last top Liverpool side to the one that won the league.
They can stay down now, you know.
Yeah, they absolutely can.
They've got their elusive Premier League. Now you can kind of like get back around, you know.
They did. And I really think that if Liverpool don't, imagine they don't get Champions League this year, like the mass exodus next year could be huge.
The league looks so competitive this year. Like
the thing is, though, it's like sorry, Rach. You look at that. You look at that team. You look at that Liverpool team there. Where's the value?
Exactly.
Because all that front line are into the 30s next year.
Aging.
And then who you buying? Henderson? No. Fabinho's just signed his deal. You've got who else? The fullbacks, Van Dijk, are the only value in that team. Thiago's old. He's not going anywhere else. Wijnaldum's gone. He's done one. And then Shaqiri? Come on. I mean, this is a declining team and it's an aging team. They peaked. And like Rachel just said, then they're sort of simmering down and down and down and down. And I don't think, unless major investment comes in again, on the scale like City and Chelsea have done, Liverpool will compete for a title. They may scrape top four, I think they've got enough to do it. The fans being back will help them this season, probably more than any of the top four, anyone that finished in the top four last season.
Famous Anfield atmosphere.
The famous Anfield atmosphere that turns the players into Rocky Balboas. That famous one. But I think they will be better than last year, but everyone else is better, if that makes sense. They've gone the step and above so far, and I don't think Liverpool have done that at all.
I agree. So do you think they finish fourth? I personally think fourth. I don't think there's the pressure this year from an Arsenal, a Tottenham, a Leicester.
Leicester probably the ones. I think Leicester are probably the ones who would challenge them the most. They'll be in and around it. I think unless United have an absolute catastrophe of a season, then I think Leicester, Liverpool fighting on that fourth spot.
The problem with Leicester is they always bottle it. Like Leicester historically.
Oh yeah.
they're always up there massively.
2 seasons in a row.
Exactly. They're always up there looking like, oh yeah, we're going to get second. That's it. And then completely last 10 games or so, they just go down straight away. But I genuinely don't even think Liverpool will get fourth. I think they'll get fifth.
They'll get top four?
No.
What about you, William? Think top four for Liverpool, or do you think no?
I think just scrape fourth, but I wouldn't be surprised if fifth. It depends on one, kind of the recruitment elsewhere. It depends if Kane stays at Tottenham. I think would help, but I don't think they've got the recruitment. Leicester's team, I think it takes how long the new signings take to last.
Yeah.
And I'll talk about my own team when I talk about my own team.
Yeah, absolutely. People in the comments as well, let us know where you think Liverpool are going to finish. I think the general consensus is sort of fourth, or as Rach says, maybe just outside the top four. The only issue I see with Liverpool finishing outside the top four is I don't think there's the strength behind them there was last year. I don't think Leicester. I think if Leicester was Maddison, they could be in bother. Whether he goes or not is obviously going to be a contentious topic in the next team we speak about. Keane reckons they'll finish 20th. Where is it? We can only hope that they finish 20th. Victoria's Secrets reckons 4th, 5th. Katie as well, 4th and 5th. So yeah, they're going to be in and around there. A lot of big players are coming to the end of their contracts in 2023 though. So if this season doesn't go as it is, you can maybe see a lot of players riding out their contracts for another year and then moving, or be a case of just sort of cut price deals and a mass exodus at Liverpool next season. It's certainly going to be
let them buy Danny Ings back.
Too late. He's gone to Aston Villa.
He's gone to Villa tonight, isn't he?
Has he gone there tonight?
Yeah, he's gone there. He's gone to Villa. I don't even know what the fee was, or if it was undisclosed.
They're spending that money well, Villa.
I think absolutely. It's about 25 million, they said.
Ings and Watkins as a front two. It's quite decent, that.
And then you got Bailey, Buendia. Yeah, I think they're going to get Todd Cantwell as well. I think that's the next
Could be a little dark horse this season, really. If you think about, obviously with Grealish going as well. You hear that?
What's that noise? No?
I can't hear anything.
Anyway, yeah, I genuinely think Villa could be maybe a dark horse this season. Obviously, if it looks like they're going to be losing Jack Grealish,
yeah.
But they're investing in other areas and they're getting ready for him to kind of, depart. So I think they could do maybe a little bit of a West Ham like they did last season. Maybe get up there, start challenging, but you never know.
Yeah, no, you never know, and I suppose that's what's good about this league. But I would love it if Villa finished above Liverpool this season. I thought that would be hilarious, especially after the 7-2 last year. I think what people feel people always bring up the 6-1 about Tottenham beating Man United, but it was literally 2 hours later. Liverpool got beat by a team that finished 17th the season before, 7-2, and it's just ridiculous. But the next team we're going to move on to William's Arsenal. Now, Arsenal definitely last season had a very disappointing season. They're now captain and am I right in saying highest paid player, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, didn't quite fire, didn't get the goals that he was expected to get sort of when he signed the big new contract. They have tried to be positive this window. They've brought in Nuno Tavares from Benfica, the young left back. They've brought in Ben White, of course, for 50 million, and is it Sambi Lokonga from somewhere in Belgium, I want to say. Yeah, Anderlecht, a young centre midfielder. So I'm going to come to William first of all to just obviously speak a bit about his team. But William, where do you think? I live with an Arsenal fan. My little sister's an Arsenal fan, so I hear this all the time in terms of where the team has to go, and she always brings up that it's got to be these older players and older heads that get moved on. These people like Willian and things like that who don't need to be at that club, and players like Lacazette who you can get value for and can move on and then bring in someone younger. But from your point of view, where do you think Arsenal go now this summer to improve to make sure this season's better than last season? Because it has to be, because it's not acceptable next season for Arteta to be sat where he was sat, because it's not defendable anymore if he's had a summer and to get the chance to get rid of these players.
Oh yeah, no doubt that if he has the same type of run, even half the amount of run that he did last year in that November period, he'd gone out the door, no doubt. Like the fans won't take it; they'll let everybody know that's what kind of saved him last season.
Yep.
Now, where do we need to improve? So yeah, we got the centre back that was kind of needed. It was quite a big of a priority. The backup left back was a major priority because Tierney always has his injuries, and we literally had nobody to play there.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like Lokonga will be a very shrewd signing. I think that he's proven even during pre-season, he's caught the eye. He's always looking to play it forward. It's something that we're not used to because we're used to passing it left, right, everywhere. So I'm happy with that. Where I would like to improve, the James Maddison links obviously is one that I would be very interested in getting. I think he would offer a different dimension to what we're used to in our team. We're very much pass heavy and hopeful on our attackers to score. We're very lack from goals from midfield. In fact, we were one of the lowest teams in the league in the last 2 seasons for goals in midfield. I mean, I'm pretty sure Joe Willock on loan at Newcastle outscored our entire midfield last season. And that included him in midfield for the first half of the season.
Yeah.
I think he would offer something different, and I can see the different fees put up. I don't think they'll accept a player that they don't want. It'll be tough. I'd say about 70 million. I think that'll happen. I think he's worth that to Arsenal at the moment in terms of what we need. I mean, you can say a price is a bit too much for a player, but if that's a position you need, you go out and you spend. It's something that we don't normally do, and it's nice to actually see it happen. I personally do think we need a striker as well. I think Lacazette his time is done. He didn't quite live up to the 50 million hypes that we paid for him. Like, he wasn't bad, but he wasn't that good. You've seen last year, Aubameyang is really fallen off, and it hasn't looked like a change in pre-season. Now, I know once the season starts, he might come in and get a few goals, but I'm not confident. I think he'll have a better season than last year, but still won't be Aubameyang, always challenging for Golden Boot. And then if you go past him, I mean, you're relying on... You could have Martinelli play there, but he's a bit risky with injuries as well. That doesn't get mentioned. That he always gets these knocks and is a bit worrying. And if it's not him, it's Balogun, who has no Premier League experience. So again, is a promising talent, but isn't necessarily fully proven. I do worry about where we're going to get our goals from again next season. And I'd just like another striker in there. Obviously, I was delighted when the Martinez links and thought, that would be perfect. He would be next level. He's done it on the highest stage. He can take us up to properly challenge him for top 4. But obviously, with those bloody rent boys down the road, getting Lukaku ain't going to happen. Look, I don't think we're going to get a striker unless we get Tammy Abraham. And that's probably going to go to Atlanta. So that one's probably not going to happen. And we really need a backup goalkeeper because we've literally only got the youngster Okonkwo, and if Leno gets injured, then we're screwed. And even with Leno, we're not confident in the way our style of play at passing out from the back. He's very nervous on it. So we definitely need a goalkeeper that can play with his feet. Like Onana's obviously just rejected Leon. So if we can try and take him for 7 million, then boom, perfect. And he can even become number 1 come January.
Exactly. I think there's a lot of interesting ways that Arsenal can go with it. As you say, I think maybe 70 million is the value for Maddison to Arsenal, because Arsenal are so desperate for that 10. Another good thing about getting Maddison is they'll weaken a team around them. Like, Arsenal will severely weaken Leicester. Leicester will become a lot less creative in that midfield role as well. And he improves Arsenal because he takes that pressure off Smith Rowe as well. I know he's has he got the number 10 shirt with his new contract? Is that
Smith
right?
Rowe's got the number 10, and
so he's got the number 10 shirt.
Look, I can't say much. Smith Rowe is my favourite player in the Arsenal team, even more than Saka and them. He's my star boy, basically. I'll be getting his name probably on a jersey and everything. I just love him that much.
I think he's fantastic. I think he's great. I just don't think he's at that level yet to play 40 plus games a season in all competitions and get you 20 goal contributions in total. No. I just don't think he's there yet. And so bringing someone like James Maddison to be like the sort of filler in between that, because you can still make money on Maddison in a few years' time with his age. if he was to get a big offer from somewhere in Arsenal, we still weren't quite winning things. And as I said, I live with an Arsenal fan, and she just commented there, just don't think Tammy Abraham is the one. Really missed out on Andre Silva, who went to Leipzig. Yeah. And that looked like it was going to be a good signing as well at one point. I looked like Andre Silva would really come in and help Arsenal. Rach, coming to you then about Arsenal, where obviously they brought in these young players, and as I said, that as William said, that they maybe still need a striker and things like that. Are you surprised that Arsenal didn't make sort of a striker their priority with just how toothless they were at points up front last season?
I think similar to Liverpool in the way they're trying to central it around Van Dijk, I feel like Arteta is holding out for Aubameyang to really kick it up a notch in this season. I like Aubameyang. I think he's class on his day, but just the lows that he hit last season, if I was an Arsenal fan, it would kind of, strike up a little bit of doubt and a little bit of fear in you, because he's signed this massive contract and then he's all of a sudden just dropped like that. It was almost instantaneous that he signed the Ting or whatever he was going on about, and then it was like a colossal drop. And I know Arsenal's form last season in general kind of, you went through that really, really bad stage where it looked like you were going to get relegated at one point.
They put relegation clauses in players' contracts. I think they'd actually started doing that.
It was relegation form. We were the worst team in the league at that stage.
Yeah. It was awful, but I mean,
loving that there, Adam. Just
I didn't want to be too, like.
Oh, I was enjoying it. It. It was nice to watch another team suffer for once, and just to not be the butt of a joke, like for not being like 15th after like 9 games, like. Man United always seemed to be for the last few seasons in and around there. And it's just like, you're 15th. It was just nice for another team to be down there.
Yeah, exactly. But I generally feel like Aubameyang will up his game this year, but is it going to be, prime Aubameyang? Is it going to be top Aubameyang? I don't think so. Because, I mean, he obviously had that illness as well, didn't he? He wasn't very well. So it might take him a while to come back from that. There's a lot of extenuating circumstances that you've got to take into consideration with players coming back from this COVID world. Obviously, we're still very much in a COVID world. Like, players could get struck down at any moment. You look at Dean Henderson with United, got COVID now. But I think this season is going to be very, very telling for Arsenal, because there's a lot of players in their team who can step up, but who need to step up and show their worth, like Smith Rowe and like Saka. I do worry for Saka a little bit. I think he's very young, and I just hope that the Euros don't play a massive part in his kind of confidence and progression going forward, because I think he's a very, very good player, but there's a lot of potential there, but they need to start stepping it up and bringing in experience around those younger players to help them along. So like a James Maddison, even though he's still relatively youngish, he's still widely experienced, and he's still a master in that position, that he could help Arsenal's lackluster midfield.
No, I agree, and I think they still need. I agree with Reece here. I think they're right back, a better goalkeeper and a striker, sort of the 3 positions I'd be looking at. If it was Arsenal, of course, that 10 role as well, if you didn't want to just sort of give the keys to Smith Rowe. And I mean, if Arsenal were to miss out on sort of top 4 this season, but get the top 6 with Smith Rowe playing as a 10, I don't know if many Arsenal fans would see that as a failure. I think they'd be very happy for Smith Rowe to be given that sort of role in that team, to just be like, okay, prove to us then. I thought the way they missed out on Buendia was laughable. I believe it came down to a sell-on clause or something like that, why they didn't want to keep Buendia, and it just, the way things have gone over the last few seasons, there's little bits that sort of show that this is still an Arsenal that is living in an era that's more like Emery, and not one that's trying to be progressive like Arteta, which looked like he was trying to be when he first came in. Adam, coming to you, do you agree with Reece there? Do you think a right back, a goalkeeper, and a striker is what Arsenal need? And even if they get those in, do you think they can get top 6? I'm not saying top 4, because I think we all agree that Arsenal are a few seasons away from top 4, but do you think they can get the top 6 if they bring in those positions, or if someone like a James Maddison comes in?
The thing is, it's like if you fall away from the so-called top 6 now in this day and age, it's not like just coming back in again. You don't just get straight back in. The fact that Villa are trolling Arsenal this summer tells you everything you need to know. Let's not forget, they took Wendy and they were trying to take Smith Rowe off him, making serious bids for Smith Rowe. So the fact that Villa are actually trying to buy Arsenal's best players tells you everything you need to know. The money is all over the league right now. Arsenal haven't got loads of it. We all know the situation they're in with owners that only see one thing, and that's what comes in. A very similar situation at Liverpool and United, as we all seen with the Super League, and why these were the clubs going for it. They wanted the safety net. Arsenal, I think, alongside Liverpool, are probably in the worst situation financially. I think Arsenal, with the stadium, they're still just about. I think they've been treading water for a long time in terms of transfers, and the stadium has hampered them massively in terms of what they was when they were at Highbury. For me, they do need players all over the pitch. I think the experience factor at Arsenal is what's lacking for me. I don't think they've got enough experience in there. I think I understand the young blood. I understand the Ben White signing. I do get that, but they need that know-how. They need that Premiership know-how, I think, for a lot of their games. You just can't buy that anymore. You just cannot buy it. There's no one out there right now you could bring straight in. I do agree goals is going to be their biggest issue, and the striker, I think, has to be at the forefront of any planning to go forward for Arsenal, because this team will create chances. We've seen that. They play nice football. It's pretty football. But if Aubameyang isn't hitting these straps, then they struggle. And that was last season, pretty much. So for me, I think if they get a guy who scores goals, I think it was, I don't know if it was Keane in the comments before saying Danny Ings probably would have been ideal sort of player for Arsenal, because you know he's going to hit the back of the net. And like you said, the Lacazette, not for me. He's like the Martial of Arsenal for me. You just don't know what's coming. You never know. He could be absolutely outstanding, and then he disappears for 4 weeks, and you're like, you know what I mean? In them 4 weeks, you completely undone what he did in that one game. That's the type of player he is. Aubameyang is top notch, but he's not getting any younger. He was elite level striker for me, and he's guaranteed goals. So if he's not on it, where do them goals come from? Because they will create, they will make chances. They've got some good players, good young players. They need that Aubameyang type player, that experienced striker in there just to help them younger players through. But Aubameyang just isn't the same player he was. And who out there can they bring in that's going to make that difference? It's a big season for Arteta. A really big season. Because, like I said, if there's one set of fans coming back to a stadium that probably won't stand for any mediocrity, it's probably the Arsenal fans, because we've seen what them guys do at the Emirates when it starts going wrong. And unlike Liverpool and them fans, so-called 12th man, I think Arteta's going to be under a lot of pressure, to be honest. And player-wise, Maddison will help. He's not going to put the ball in the back of the net enough times to get them back into that top 6, though. The creativity, I can see it working, but you've always got to have that player. We talked about Chelsea and what they need. I mean, Chelsea are the next level to Arsenal, obviously, but we're talking about Arsenal actually breaking back into the top 6 here, not challenging, getting into the top 6. It's no foregone conclusion now. Unless you spend money, which they are doing a little bit more, then you're not going to get there. They've just got too many positions that need rectifying, I think, for him to go definitely straight back in there. And Arteta is that, isn't it? When you know you've got a steady manager like Liverpool, Chelsea, City, these managers we know, mainstays, experienced managers now, and you feel like you've got half a chance. But when you've got young managers like Ole, like Arteta, there's always that fear that it just may get too overwhelmed. And it's the uncertainty in that sort of spreads through a lot of the team as well a lot of the time. We've seen it at United with Ole sometimes. I think it's very similar with Arteta. it's the players aren't good enough, then is Arteta inspiring enough to actually get these players back into the top 6? They need that quality player. They need that quality striker. That's 100%.
They do. No, I agree. They need that goal scorer, much like we were saying earlier on with Chelsea, that they just need that one person to hang their hat on, build their team around, and really bank on getting the goals. And I think you're right, Adam, in the fact that Arsenal, this isn't a one summer fix, sort of the state that they've got this team in now. I think Emery left the club rotten with mediocre players playing on big wages with important roles. And it looked like Arteta was going to get rid of a couple of those this summer. It looked like obviously David Luiz had left. There was talks earlier on in the window about William potentially going elsewhere. Xhaka looked like he was on his way to Roma, and now he's got an extension. Like, there just seems to be no vision, and it doesn't look like anyone at Arsenal. It doesn't look like anyone's ever sat down with everyone or whoever makes the decision just been like, this is the way we're going to go. This is the type of player we're going to sign. Because, like, yeah, young's fine, but apart from being young, what do Nuno Tavares and Sambi Lokonga and Ben White all have in common? Like, they don't play similar style. They don't even play, they've not even the same level sort of experience. Like, Tavares is hard or not really played that many games at the very top level. Like, they strike me as a team that should have been last summer, should have been their summer to be in transition, and they're now eking out this transition by not getting rid of the players that are causing the issue. And I think if they managed to get rid of Xhaka this summer, it would have been brilliant, because I don't think he suits what Arteta wants to do. Like, I know he's reliable and things like that, but I just don't think if Arteta wants his team to be the Arsenal of old, they don't need a Xhaka, they need a Vieira, and they need a genuine top holding midfielder, a defensive midfielder who's going to put their life on the line and is good enough on the ball as well, which Vieira doesn't really get as much credit for as he should. And I don't think Xhaka is that player. I think players like Saka and Smith are good enough to be in a European playing team, but they need to sort of build around them. If you are in the comments, let us know where you think Arsenal are going to finish. I'm going to go to each of the panelists as well, and then we'll move on to talking about the Super Reds. Well, where do you see your Arsenal finishing next season? We'll say with a caveat if they were to get a Maddison. They were to get Maddison.
Right. The mad thing is, if we were able to get the backup goalie, Maddison, and Lautaro Martinez, as we were linked with earlier in the week, then I would have said 4th ahead of Liverpool. However, we've only... I seriously believe that they would do that much.
I'd love that, to be fair.
But
I love that.
Now, if we only get, say, Maddison and the backup goalie, I'm going to say 6th, kind of at a push. And that depends on 6th if Harry Kane leaves Tottenham.
Yeah, I think that's
if Harry Kane leaves Tottenham, we finish ahead of Spurs, no doubt. If he stays, then they'll get there. And then, obviously, we'll battle as well with kind of Leicester, maybe, on how their new signings last as well. But I'm going to say 6th.
No, fair enough.
And I know I'll get loads of hate off of different Arsenal fans for saying that, and they'll be like, well, it's part of what's going to happen. As long as it's more of a steady season than last year, not a heavy losses, and then a big up and down. I'd rather a bit more steady, but
try and see how it goes. Having a 60-day domestic win.
Without Europe, definitely could help us as well. It gives a lot more time to recover into the legs. But if things are going wrong, it could really hamper us as well, that we don't have something else that we can play for and can get the bad run out of the way. So
definitely, 5th, definitely blind optimism. 10th in the chat as well. 7th from Keane. Adam, what about yourself? Where can you see Arsenal finishing next season if they were to get Maddison?
I still think 8th. I do think 8th. Honestly, just it's the Arteta factor for me again. And when the going gets tough, has he got what it takes to get this young team over the line? I just don't think they've got it there. Looking at the other teams, I'm looking at West Ham's team. If they keep Rice and improve and add a few players, Villa doing things, Leicester. The Tottenham one is very interesting. William's right on that, because they could finish even lower than that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? The North London fight could be literally mid-table toppers if they're not careful. Investment and these next couple of weeks are massive for both of them clubs. Massive. I think more so Tottenham than Arsenal. I think Tottenham's decline will be more drastic because, it's all right signing Son, but these guys are about to lose Bale and Harry Kane.
Yeah.
So
I genuinely think that if Harry Kane does leave this summer, I genuinely think Son will be right behind him next year. Because I know obviously he's just signed his new deal, but what we're talking about at the start of the show about what Jack Grealish has done, he's obviously signed that deal so that they can cash in on him, and that will be in the back of Levy's mind because he's so, he's always business savvy. He always thinks about the money. If Son signed this new deal, then I genuinely think he's that kind of player because we know what Son's like. He throws his toys out the pram. He's a pesky little, pesky little fucker. But genuinely, I can see if Harry Kane does leave, I genuinely think Son will be right behind him next year, and then I think that throws Tottenham into turmoil because obviously they're two best players.
Yeah, no, I agree. And Rach, where do you think Arsenal finish then? If they get Maddison, and let's say it's looking like City are going to get Kane, so do you think Arsenal finish? Do you think they can get top 6, or do you think it's more sort of mid-table than that?
I'll go with 6th.
Fair enough.
I'll go with 6th.
Yeah, I think 7th or 8th. I sort of agree with what Adam said in terms of the Arteta factor, but I'm always wary to throw that sort of stone in a glass house because we have Ollie. And Ollie has proved time and again that, tactically, sometimes he is brain dead. And just the way he goes not into games even, just the way he changes things when things go wrong in games is sometimes frustrating. But
that's the problem.
Yeah, but his man management literally single-handedly drags us over the lines and wins us games. So I'm always careful to throw that sort of abuse at someone like Arteta, because if the players get on with them and you can get a reaction at players, then who are we to say it didn't work? But the general consensus in the chat seems to sort of be couple 6th, mostly 7th and 8th, and I reckon that'll be fair for Arsenal. And like William said, if they can just have a more consistent season and not sort of the roller coaster that they've had the last two, I'm sure they'd take that as some sort of success. Moving on then, as I said, to the Manchester Super Reds, who I think when I last hosted a show, it was the day after Jadon Sancho got a here we go, and I can't remember who was on. Adam, I think you might have been on. And we were talking about what's the possibility of Varane coming, and we were all very much like, he's going to be playing us for a new contract, and he'll stay at Real Madrid, and we'll get stuck with someone like a Ben White, or we'll have to go for a Tyrone Mings or something. Fast forward 3 weeks, and Man United are a week away, probably max, to announcing Varane as being a new signing. You have Jadon Sancho, and like you said earlier on with the Lukaku thing, if Chelsea sign Lukaku, they're going to be getting £55 million in the pocket to go and get a holding midfielder. I, for one, am stunned that Man United have been this efficient in this window. I don't know if that comes across to the other Man United fans and to William as well, but I am stunned. We are never this efficient. I thought the Sancho deal was always going to be quick, but the way that Varane went from very quickly being like, we're interested, to, no, this is happening, to happened in no time. It seemed to be like 48 hours from like, there's serious interest. Man United are speaking to Varane or his camp, and then suddenly the bid had been accepted and Man United announced that they'd made an agreement. I'll come to you first, Adam. What are your sort of opinions on our summer so far? Because I'm just in shock, and I can't have many complaints in terms of how things have gone, especially with this being Murta and Fletcher's first season.
Take everything aside and what's happened over the last few months outside of Old Trafford protests and whatnot and Super League chaos. This summer has been exceptional in terms of how we've done our business. We bought the players in before we've got rid of players. That's acting like a big club straight away for me. We've bought 2 best-in-class players in positions that we actually need. We've not just gone chasing the big name who's available, the shirt seller who can just get us a whatnot off the pitch in terms of revenues. And it's like I said, we've found the positions we need players in, and we've gone and bought the best that's there. available for each position. You can't really argue with that. They both are. They're both adding something to this football club. I think right now, and I did this the other day, I said I expect United to be challenging for the league this season. I expect trophies and I expect to be challenging for the league. It's as simple as that. Ollie's had his time. Ollie has had his money. He's been backed. Don't care what anyone says. The guy's bought a team. I did a video the other day. He's bought a team. He's had a player for every single position. He spent over 400 million. And he probably had about 250 million's worth of players already to add to that. So his squad right now, his first 16, 17-man squad is worth $750 million. You've got a challenge. You have to challenge. Otherwise, see you later. It's as simple as that now. You can't have, he's not been backed. This summer has been exceptional in where we've done business. No surprise that we've actually got a so-called director of football in place and sort of a football structure off the pitch that it's actually worked well. I mean, don't get me wrong, things fell into place nicely for us. I thought the Glazers weren't ever going to kick up a stink this summer after what happened with the Super League. It was a good time to strike, and they have done. Varane fell into our hands. Contract ending, turmoil in Spain. We could not make that move happen. It was just ideal. I think there may be that midfielder falling into our laps as well, in either Neves or Niguez. I'm talking Niguez is trying to be pushed towards Liverpool tonight, but I still think there's a chance there. And all United need to do now is get rid of some players, really. That midfielder comes in, absolutely ideal, but honestly, there's no excuse anymore. Even the Ollie haters, the Ollie outers, the hardcore Ollie outers, even they should be happy right now because Ollie's got no excuse now.
They're not.
He's got no excuse now. They should be looking at it logically, but they're that blinded by stupidity that they want the team to lose simply because they don't like a manager. Then I've no time for them people. Just cretins who haven't got a clue. I think right now that team is strong enough to challenge for the league. I do. Honestly, I mean, like I said, you can go down every position on the team and Ollie's got a new player for that position added to what he already had. There's no excuse. There's no excuse. All he needs to do is he needed help in his coaching staff, I think. And that, for me, is what we've not addressed. I know we've got the set-piece coach. No surprise again. I know it's a second string, but we concede from a set-piece and we concede from a mistake against Brentford in our last game. Same as last season. 30-odd% of our goals were conceded from set pieces. I'm happy with that, but this guy's only worked on under 23 level so far. Is he going to be able to get this defence actually defending properly from set pieces? And there's some big decisions he needs to make. I mean, the midfield, the formation, the goalkeeping situation, and his favourites. He needs to be able to rectify all of them this season. And if he's not learnt from last season, having been given all the tools now, there's no way anyone can defend him anymore. And he has to provide this season. Otherwise, I mean, how long can you keep saying it's progress when you stay in the same position? Because the only way forward now for progress is winning that league or coming second and winning trophies with it and challenging. That's the only progress we can make this season. We've been more active than anyone else in that top four so far. I mean, City are about to catch us up, but for me, I think United have strengthened more than anyone in that top four so far.
I agree with you completely. And like you said, we've got the best in class. And that was something that I remember at the end of Mourinho's time and the time that Ollie first came in. That was something that Gary Neville always harped on about was Man United should be getting best in class. And we have done this summer. And I always say to people, when they ask me about sort of the signings that Ollie brings in, like I back every single signing that Ollie brings in because bar Van de Beek, who's maybe not quite hit the ground running as we thought, they've all hit and they've all made an impact in terms of where they should be. Like I think there's a lot of people now starting to change their mind on Maguire based on how he was in the Euros and how much of a stalwart he's been for Man United over the last 2 seasons, that people are starting to realise that this isn't FIFA and you don't need 90 pace to suddenly be a world-class centre-back. If you've got the right team around you, you can be world-class. And he is. And he has been for Man United over the last little while. And I think you're right. I think we will be. I think a lot of it does hinder on terms of if we get that centre midfielder in, but all he does need to challenge next season. City are obviously going to be stronger, but challenge and win trophies has got to be the one goal. I think. Rach, coming to you, looking at the centre midfielder thing, do you think that's where Man United will go next? Because we've obviously been really linked to Trippier. There was a lot of the general consensus on the Trippier deal, if you look online and things, is the Trippier deal will happen because both sides want it. Atletico Madrid are looking for a replacement. It's just a case of when, it's not a case of if. So do you think Man United will seal up that deal first of all, bringing that back up right back, or do you think they'll go and get someone like a Camavinga or a Ruben Neves or Saul Niguez?
I do think it all depends on how quick Chelsea get Lukaku in and over the line, because you know what the Glazers are like. They'll be constantly thinking about money, and they'll be thinking about that money that we're going to be getting. There are some fans on Twitter that would say that it's going to go straight into the back of their pockets, but I genuinely don't think this club is done in the transfer market just yet. No. Trippier, I started the beginning of this whole Trippier saga saying I didn't want him, but I've changed my tune a hell of a lot. I'm woman enough to admit when I'm wrong. When you sit back and you really look at the strengths that he could bring to the side, competition for Wan-Bissaka, he's a killer on a set piece. Him and Wan-Bissaka are completely different kind of defenders. So I think he could be better in different kind of games than Wan-Bissaka. There's no denying that Wan-Bissaka is one of the best 1v1 defenders in the league. And Trippier is great kind of going forward. If we could just kind of merge them together, that would be fabulous. So, but I think competition is one of the main things that we haven't had for that right back position. I mean, you've got Brandon Williams, who kind of plays there every now and then. Dalot, who is kind of he's a right back, but he can play left back as well. So there's not really much competition there for Wan-Bissaka. So I feel like last season, especially, he got very, very complacent in his position, and rightly so. But I think the Trippier thing will happen. I'm confident of that. Whether it will be more towards the end of the transfer window, potentially. But I think the CDM has to be the main priority going forward, because I think Victoria's Secret said it in the chat earlier, that's our weak link in the middle. We cannot go into another season with McFred in the middle. We can't. No. Like, it's just, there's, especially when you've got Maguire and Varane, that partnership is so much more, better than Lindelof. It's so much more watertight. It's so much tighter than Maguire and Lindelof, that we shouldn't need to hold in midfield. There's no doubt about it. But the timing and when we're going to bring in that CDM, I can genuinely see McFred starting the start of the season against Leeds. But I do think we will get a CDM. Just how quick, I'm not sure. I think it could be like a deadline day thing, which I wouldn't like, because I hate deadline day signings. Apart from Cavani, obviously last year I was on YouTube saying he's a flop, and I don't want to do that again because that got me a lot of hate. But I just hope that we get it shored up, quick. So I kind of hope Chelsea get this Lukaku thing done, sharp, move your ass kind of thing. Yeah,
get done the next few days, and then let us size up who we want, and just sort of. I just like the way Man United have been so much like, we want this player, this is what we're going to give you, and then teams have gone, okay. Like, it's like they're dealing with Man United of old again.
It's not like we got ripped off from Maguire. Like,
at the
time, obviously, when you look at Maguire now, it's worth its weight in gold. But I mean, there was at the times especially the start of the season, when he was going through that whole Greek situation, and he was very, very low on confidence, that he looked a shadow of himself. But he's really, really picked it up, and the last 5-6 games of the season when he wasn't there really, really showed, because we started to decline. And obviously when you've got Lindelof at the back, when you've got a chop and change him from Bailly to Tuanzebe and back again, it just didn't really work. And I think that Europa League final has really hurt Ollie in a way. And I genuinely think, in regards to Ollie, it's no secret that I'm an Ollie fan. I do love him. I want him to do well for the club. But I completely agree with Adam in the sense that there is no excuses now. There is no excuses. I think if we get that CDM, providing that we do get the CDM and maybe Trippier, there is absolutely... And Pogba stays, yeah. Mm-hmm. But I genuinely think that Pogba's not going anywhere because, like we've touched on before, there's no money abroad, really, when you think about it. And PSG have bolstered up anyway. So I genuinely can't see him going there. So there's no excuses, in my opinion. But I really want him to do well. And I can see it this season that he's going to win at least something.
I hope so. He needs to. And Adam's right, he needs to. And I think what's so good about, even if Ollie fails to win something this summer, he's left, unlike the previous managers, he's left the squad in a better state than when he found it. And I think if you were to ask Ollie when he first came in, what was his goal when he first got the job, was to leave the club in a better state than he found it, because he found it in absolute shambles after Mourinho. I'm going to quickly come to William before we finish up. William, from a neutral fan's point of view, what's your opinions on terms of the way Man United have gone about this summer and sort of where they go next?
Honestly, not surprised at all. I remember saying it at the beginning of the summer. I had a feeling that you would get Varane, Sancho, and Trippier, right? Those were my 3 ones. And ironically, I said for Chelsea it would be Lukaku, Koundé, and I did think they would get Rice. However, and I said I didn't think United would actually, where the Glazers would let them down, is not put the money in for the centre mid. Mm-hmm. I think you definitely need that defensive midfield position to be properly shored up, so that then you can play more like a 4-3-3 and be a bit more attacking and a bit more United-like, even though you were getting that way last season. There's no doubt you've improved massively from where you were. The signings you've done so far, Varane, Sancho, very, very good signings. No matter what money they are, they will improve you tenfold. Mm-hmm. Look, there's no doubt in my mind now that United are going to come top 3. They'll be in that type of ground. I just have a feeling that this will be Ollie's last season. I have a feeling he's taken and it's not a diss on him. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I just feel like he's done the perfect job so far, but I don't think he'll be the one to take you over the line. I think you'll still be challenging for a decent amount of time, but it'll kind of drop off in the sense around the February, March time where they'll be challenging, but City will be City and they'll run away with it. And I just have a feeling he ain't going to win a cup competition either, because, again, it doesn't seem like he seems to be able to get over the line. He gets further and further, but just that last hurdle doesn't make it. Do I think that he's been a bad manager? No, he's been the perfect manager for what he was brought in to do. And that was just to shore up ship. And let's be honest, he wasn't even brought in to do that. He was there to be there until the summer, get there, and then we'll see what you can do. But he did such a good job clearing out the deadwood, bringing in new players. Where I worry about is when eventually he does get sacked, I have a feeling in around the summer, because it will be at that time, it'll just be like, right, fair enough. We can go this certain length and it's gone. When you get a proper manager, and that's no disrespect to him, Ollie has been a proper manager, but I mean world top class, someone like a Zidane or something like that, when he's got quality players that ye have, I think that there's a chance he could even romp the league 1 year or 2 from now.
Hope so.
I'm serious. I can see it. I can see it happening. Ye will win the league probably in the next 5 years, easy. That will come. It's getting to the stage. I know. How long has it been so far? How long have you waited so far?
Long.
It's not a long time in football. Trust me.
No, maybe you're right.
Shirt was actually the season after we won the league, so 2014-15. So a bad omen, really. I should take it off. Obviously, not right now.
PG show.
I worded that wrong.
people in the comments let us know, where do you think the mighty Manchester Super Reds are going to end up at the end of the season? I personally think, just the way City are going, that we'll finish second. I think we're a very strong side. I think we'll beat Chelsea to it. But I don't know. I can't see us quite being the table toppers and beating that great City side. They might do it. I don't know, but I don't know. I've just got a feeling that they won't. And then I think it could be like William said, it could be a stage next season where if we don't win the league next season, that we're sort of looking at this point next year and being like, right, is Ollie the right man to take us forward? And if not, who is? And seeing who's available on the free agent market in terms of a manager, or see even who we could get to come in. Maybe someone like a Brendan Rodgers looks at that project with a Sancho and a Varane there and goes, can give that a go. Who knows? But yeah, I think personally second. Rach, what about yourself?
Yeah, I think second, but I think it'll be a bit closer than what it was last year. At least I hope so anyway. I just hope for a really... I really hope for just a competitive season where, good old Premier League, like, fucking bored of this shit with like people running away with it. Like
15-point wins.
Yeah, like it's fucking boring. And I know I'm only saying that because it's not us. If we were winning by 15 odd points, I'd be like,
prison, yeah.
But nah, genuinely, I just want a competitive competition because that's the beauty of the Premier League. It's the best league in the world. You want competition. You don't want one team running away with it. So I think second, I think we'll get we'll bridge that gap a little bit. I have faith.
Fair enough. Adam, what about yourself? Keane reckons first. Shock horror. What about yourself? Where do you think United end up?
I think it's going to be, a proper challenge, and second. That's what I'm thinking. I'm like talking the challenge into the last month of the season, and it's not being run away with it. But I expect United to win the League Cup and the FA Cup. I won't be happy.
Nice. I want the Champions League. Fuck that.
Yeah, I'll take any cup.
Literally.
Cup. Yeah, just anything.
Pep. They love that.
Take comfortably in second, challenging City and a trophy. That's what's needed this season.
Yeah, for real.
Fair enough. And William, what about yourself? Where do you think Arsenal do you United end up?
Jesus Christ. I'm gonna say third, 2 points behind Chelsea, but about 9 points off City.
9. Oh. I suppose it was closer, but
I mean, it's getting there. We're getting there.
God, you're falling into that progression trap again, then, aren't you?
Yeah, that is a progression.
Next season, it'll be like 6 points behind. We're still progressing.
So getting there.
Probably, let's just say 2 semi-finals and 1 final as well.
We've got to win something. I agree in that. Like, just something has to give, and we've got to win something. We need just a bit of luck as well. Just something to go our way in one of these cup competitions, like maybe to not draw Man City in the semi-final would be lovely. Anything like that.
Best thing you could hope for is getting City in that first round of the League Cup and beating them when they're not got a full strength out and taking them out of it, because it's the only way you're going to get City out of that, because the longer that competition goes on, they'll just keep playing a stronger team. Get them while they're half weakened early doors in the season when they're not quite hitting the straps, and go for it and take them out then. And then,
to be fair, we'll probably end up getting them at that stage because we always get someone hard. I remember last year we got Leicester, then Liverpool, then got knocked out by City in that fucking cup. And it's the one trophy, except for Europe, it's the one domestic trophy I've never seen Arsenal win.
Fair enough. Well, that's brought us to the end of the show. We've managed to talk Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal, and Man United. I think the general consensus was that all those teams, bar Arsenal, are going to be in and around that top 4. Arsenal sort of 7th, 8th, maybe even 6th. Just before we go, I'm going to let each of the panel shout out anything they want to shout out. So, William, you got anything you want to shout out to everyone?
Nothing too much. Just you can follow me on Twitter at WillyChillyBry, and that's about it for now.
No problem. Rach, what about yourself?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter on RachMFC7. I am also about on this channel, and also me and Greg do a NBA podcast that we'll be talking about in a little while, maybe. I'm still a bit sore.
Still a bit sad.
Yeah. Don't talk about NBA because I'll start crying again.
No worries.
But no, follow me on Twitter and also sub to this channel as well because I'm about.
Perfect. And Adam?
Yeah, right there below you, Adam Matic TV, YouTube, and Adam Matic on all socials. You'll see my ugly mug. Just go for it and just follow the crack, because we've got loads of match day content coming up this season. So, yeah, stay tuned for that.
We do indeed. Hopefully, only positive vibes coming from Man United. Lots of victories, please, at Old Trafford, as well as away. As good as it is to win away, just start winning games at home would be really, really nice. But that's going to do it for tonight, guys. Next week, I think, should City get sort of Grealish and look at Kane, next week should be something involving Man City and a couple other teams as well, and maybe looking where they can improve. But thank you very much to everyone that's watched. Thank you to everyone that got involved in the comments. Thank you very much to all my guests tonight. See you guys next week. Bye.